Hello there. So today we are moving on to page 29, and it's going to feel like it's something totally different than what we've been doing. It's actually not, and hopefully you recognize that because we haven't even taken an assessment yet. So we are actually in the same standard. You probably won't see for a day or two though how the two are connected, but once you do, you'll see how this comes together. So get out page 29 and let's see what this is about. Page 29 is called Fishing Adventures Task. So this is going to be one of those where in a bit I say pause the video and try this, and because you guys are such amazing students now and understand how things work, when I say that you're actually going to pause the video and try it because you know it's best for your brain. On the top it says, Fishing Adventures rents small boats to tourists for day-long fishing trips. Okay, so people don't have their own boat. They want to go out on a fishing trip, so they go to this place and they rent a boat and they take it out fishing for the day. Okay, so they get to keep the boat for the day. For safety reasons, each boat has a maximum weight allowance of 1,200 pounds. It makes sense that a boat would have a weight limit for safety so that it doesn't sink. Each boat already comes loaded with 200 pounds of fishing gear necessary for the trip. Each person brings about 10 more pounds of their own personal gear for the trip. And for the sake of this problem, we're going to assume an average. Obviously, humans come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. That's what makes us all so amazing and wonderful. For the sake of being able to do some simple mathematics here, we're going to assume an average weight of a person is 150 pounds. These are adult persons, okay? So, all that information in there. If you need to, it's always a good idea to rewind and let me read it again, and then underline and look at things as you go, okay? So if you need to, go back, have me read that to you again, and make sure you're processing all the information in there. Once you've done that, part A, here's what you need to do. Each of the following groups wish to rent a boat for the day. My question for you, what I want you to do, is determine if these groups can safely rent a boat. This part's really important. Explain how you know. That means when you submit a picture of this for your binder check at the end of this week, and I look through it really closely, if all I see is yes, no, and that's all you write, I'm not going to give you points for that page, because that is not what you've been asked to do. Anybody can go through and guess yes or no. If you're doing more than that and more than a guess, I can't tell because I can't see inside your brain. I have to see it written on the paper. So I do want to know for part A, group 1, if you have 4 people of average weight, can they safely ride the boat? You are going to tell me yes or no, but you're going to show me how you figured that out. Group 2, these all say group 1. That's funny. This is group 2, and this is group 3. So you can go ahead and fix that. Group 2, what if you have 5 people of average weight? And group 3, what if you have 8 people of average weight? You're going to figure this out for me right now. Can these groups safely ride the boat, and how do you know? Show me in whatever way makes sense to you, but show me the thought process you went through. So now is that point where you're going to pause me and try part A. Go ahead, pause me. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite mistakes that I see students make on this part in class. Take a look at this orange work right here. I often get students that say they're all safe because they're all at 1200 or below it. Take a look at your paper and see if you came up with those results. If you did, you actually need to give this another try. This is one of my favorite mistakes. It's a really important thing for us to talk about, but why is it a mistake? It's 4 people, 150, 5 people at 150. This mathematics right here is a very valuable thing to start with, but it is certainly not finished, okay? If you did this, what have you forgotten about? So if you made this very wonderful mistake, you're going to pause this video again and you're going to go back and read this information and see that you're on the right track here, but you are not quite finished. So once again, if you got these answers, pause me one more time and take another look. Okay, some people at this point realize, oh, I forgot that the boat already comes loaded with 200 pounds of fishing gear. So that's going to weigh down the boat. So at this point, a lot of people will go back through and add 200 to their answer and realize, oh, there's 800 pounds. Do you guys ever write or say a word so much that it starts to look weird? This word looks very weird to me right now because I just wrote it 6 times. Anyway, pretty sure that's how you spell it. So they add 200 and they say, okay, I was wrong the first time, but groups 1 and 2 actually are the only safe ones. Group 3 is not safe because I'm over the weight limit because I add those 200 pounds back in. And I'm here to tell you that these answers still are not quite finished. And some of you watching this video right now are like, I know, I see the thing that's forgotten. Do you see the thing that's forgotten? What else is forgotten? Here, we also need to recognize that this part, each person brings about 10 more pounds of their own personal gear. Each person does. Oh, so I could go through and I could keep adding. I could add, if there's 4 people, I could add, 10, 20, 30, 40 more. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to write one overall math statement that would actually work for all of it. So I could definitely go, okay, I'm going to add 40 to this one, and I'm going to add 50 to this one, because 5 people, 5 times 10, and I'm going to add 80 to this one. And I could add all those pieces up separately. This is also the moment where some people in class go, Miss McGowan, instead of doing 4 times 150, can I just go 4 times 160? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can. Because if we're saying the average weight of one person is 150, and then we're all assuming that they each bring 10 more pounds of gear, then doesn't it make sense to just count each person as 160? That makes a lot of sense to me. So at this point, whatever you have written down here, I want you to go back and I want you to add a mathematical statement for each of these groups. Let's put it all together as one math statement that we can solve and answer the question. So we're going to do 4 times 160, 4 times 160 plus the 200 pounds of gear on the boat. Okay, we'll figure that out in a second. This one, the only thing that will change is that it's 5 people instead of 4 people, so it'll be 5 times 160 plus the 200 pounds of gear already on the boat. And this one will be 8 times 160 plus the 200 pounds of gear that are already on the boat. Okay, so, okay, for a second I thought I wasn't recording and then I was gonna get really sad. Here we go. So I'm gonna type these in all as a math statement like this. 4 times 160 plus 200 is 840 pounds. And I'm not gonna write that word pounds again because it looks weird to me. I'm gonna write LBS, which frankly is also weird that that's the abbreviation for pounds. Sure has something to do with Latin, I don't know. But it is the abbreviation for pounds. 5 times 160 plus 200. Group 2 is 1,000 pounds when you include all the people and all their gear. And then group 3 is 1,480 pounds. So, can group 1 safely ride? Yes, they can, because they are under the weight limit. Group 2 still makes it under the weight limit. And group 3, well, we knew from the beginning that as soon as we got 1,200 pounds for the people and knew there was going to be more for the gear, don't put 8 people on that boat. That is dangerous. Okay, that is dangerous. So what I want to make sure you guys recognize also is that we were actually looking for, in this scenario, did our answer have to equal 1,200 exactly in this problem? No, it didn't have to equal 1,200 exactly. It had to be equal to 1,200 or less than 1,200, right? Pretty sure that's something you've heard about in elementary, is this idea of less than. You don't always have to be exactly equal to something. Sometimes you just have to be within a boundary of it. So this one worked, even though it was not equal to 1,200, but it was less than 1,200. So I'm going to write this one more way. okay? And if you have some space up there, add this with me as well. One more color here, purple. And I'm also going to change this, and I'll show you why in just a second. I'm going to write it this way. 160 times 4, I just swapped those around. That's commutative property. I didn't really change anything. Plus the 200 pounds of gear is what we call, here's a math symbol for you, less than or equal to 1,200. The fact that this was less than 1,200 is why we could say, yes, this is a safe group. It didn't have to be equal to 1,200. In fact, if it is exactly equal to 1,200, I still might question, is that safe? Do I really want to push that limit right up to the limit? But this made less than or equal to 1,200. This one, when we did 160 times 5 plus 200, this one was also less than or equal to 1,200. Again, that's why we could say, yes, check, that worked. Whereas this one, when I did 160 times 8 plus 200, that one was actually greater than. And if you don't remember those symbols, oh, we're going to work with them so much in the next week or two that you're going to get them in your brain. And I'm going to give you tricks on how to remember which is which. This one was greater than the 1,200 pounds, which is why it did not work. Okay. This is why this is different than what we've done for the last little while, is because you don't always have to be exactly equal to something. Everything we worked with the last couple weeks was solve the equation, equation, because something had to be exactly equal. Now, before we talk about what this is called and what we're doing with it, look at part B. This is your next chance to pause me and try something, but let me read it first. Come up with 2 more tourist groups. This means you get to make them up. One that can safely rent a boat, so that you'd say yes to, and one that cannot safely rent a boat. So this would be yes, it's safe, and this would be no, not safe. You get to make them up, but then I also want you to show me something like a math statement like this that shows me how you know that it's either safe or not safe. You're going to make up 2 group sizes. Tell me how many people it is, something that we haven't already seen, and then prove to me that it's either safe or not safe. You're going to pause me right now. Go ahead, pause. Okay, here are the groups I came up with. Yours do not have to be exactly mine, but a safe group, and I'll tell you how I came up with this number in just a second, but a safe group, 6 people is actually the highest you can go and still have it be safe. So if you put anything 6 people, 5 people, 4, 3, 2, or of course 1 person. Some people are like, well, 1 person can just go safely. Sure can, just prove it to me with the mathematics. So if you type this in, 160 times 6 plus 200 is like 1,160 or something. But the fact is it's less than 1,200, therefore it's safe. An unsafe group, this could go all kinds of sizes. You could say 100 people, that would definitely be an unsafe group. Basically anything more than 6 is unsafe. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, unsafe groups because they will be over 1,200 pounds. Now here's the really important thing, and here's our key mathematical word that we need to know right now. Part C, let's do this together. Part C says, write an inequality. You see that word right there? Inequality that illustrates the weight limit for a group of tourists on a fishing boat. And inequality means there does not necessarily have to be an equal sign. Instead, it could be greater than or less than. So look at these green statements I was writing here. 160, 6, 200, 1,200. When I change these statements, and it's the same with my purple statements above, there is only one part of this whole thing that ever changed. And it was right here, the number of people. That was the only part that was changing. And guess what? That makes it our variable. X is the number of people. The number of people within one of our groups. If X is the number of people, here's what we were doing. We were doing 160 times the number of people, and then we were adding the 200 pounds of gear that were already on the boat, and we were saying that value needs to be less than or equal to 1,200. Within this standard, and we'll go add it to our booklets when we're all finished with this standard, but within this standard, you have to be able to solve equations. We've worked on that a lot the last while. You also have to be able to solve inequalities. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lot of the same stuff. Here's how I kind of knew where that number 6 was going to come from. Watch this. I can still think of this as the Adeline side and the Penelope side, and I can totally go through and solve this. That is what we are going to work on over the next couple of days, but everything you already know about additive inverse and multiplicative inverse is going to work for this as well. So what are you going to work on for your practice today? Well, you're not solving them yet. What you're working on for your practice today is just what are inequalities. So there is a video at the beginning of your quiz that helps you get started on that. So make sure when you're done with this, you can put page 29 back safely in your math binder and then watch the video on the quiz, get out a piece of paper and listen to the first few so that I can help you so that you can get your minimum score.